G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Let's go. I found out that I'm the other woman. Should I tell the wife? A few days ago, I found out that a guy that I used to date last winter had given me a fake last name, got married in early spring, and had been engaged living with his fiancée the entire time that we were dating, and as we continued to hook up every now and then in the months following us no longer dating. He was able to hide his wife from me in a variety of ways that all added up to be a perfect scenario for him to continue to lead me on, and without me seeing a reason to ask many questions. For example, he was a coach and had weird work hours, like very early mornings and evenings after normal work hours, so many of our dates were lunch dates. He was also going through a messy custody hearing for his son that was scheduled for March 2022. So when he started to be busy a lot, I understood and didn't ask questions. He had told me that he didn't have social media to avoid giving his ex any fuel at all for the hearing. So when I couldn't find him online, well, he'd already told me why. At the time, there was no solid reason for me to distrust him, even if things sometimes felt a little off in my gut. At one point, I did question his interest in me when he didn't reply for a few days, and he told me, "Sorry, busy weekend with my son." He would reassure me and apologize, so he had many chances to set me free even without coming clean. He could have just said, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore, I wish you the best." And I feel so stupid for thinking what a great father he was for being so focused on his son when he had his weekends with him. He eventually was honest with me as the custody hearing got closer and told me that he needed to be focused on that and that he couldn't give me what I deserved in a relationship right now. When we stopped seeing each other regularly, we stayed in contact and occasionally slept together since we were both single, or so I thought. I even looked back through my calendar and we saw each other 2 days after his wedding weekend. Ick. I found out that he was married when I mentioned him at a business, and someone who worked there said they think that he was their coach. I'm purposefully keeping that vague because when I confronted him, he tried to get me to tell him who it was that he coached who told me. I wasn't going to play that game. So, we looked up his coaching profile to see if we were talking about the same person, and there he was, smiling with a different last name than what he had told me 10 months ago, with the description saying that he likes to spend time with his wife, his son, and dog, same name that he told me. More Googling at home brought up a wedding registry for a wedding in April 2022. Both of their Facebook profiles were there in each other's pictures, and the house that he lives in with the wife's name is the owner. I feel so disgusted, deceived, targeted, hurt, mad, sad, shocked. So, ladies and supporters of ladies, do I tell the wife? Part of me wants to so that she isn't also being deceived by this guy and so he doesn't get away with it. But I also want it just to be done with, move on, and never think about him again. I'm afraid to open a door that I can't close by involving myself more into his twisted life. I'm slightly concerned about his reaction if I tell him, like my own safety or that of my property since he knows where I live, or if there's any other ways that a cruel and cunning person would get revenge that I'm not thinking of. Any advice or similar experiences? Thank you. Now in the comments, when I was married, I got a phone call from the husband of the woman that my husband cheated on me with. It was a hard call, but I'm grateful he did that. I had a lot of little signs, but his call, and the proof of my husband's infidelity that his call led me to find, like phone records, ultimately helped me end a terrible marriage. Yes. As someone who has been the wife, tell her and tell her right now. I'll second the yes. Do you know why he's having a custody hearing for his son? Could this have maybe been that he is a serial cheater, and he has cheated on a former partner, or cheated with the mother of his son? Just my thoughts when I hear a situation like this. OP replies, he told me they broke up because she's changed a lot. He didn't use such neutral wording, and became abusive, and he worked too much and wasn't around enough for her and their son. I have no idea how much of this is true. He told me a lot about the ex that made her seem very irrational and angry, but I feel like guys like him tend to like to make themselves the victims too, so who knows what she's really like. 2 days after their wedding weekend. Give that woman every last scrap of evidence that you have of his infidelity. Get your transcripts from your mobile service, get the texts, and send them to her. If you feel like that's too much work, think about if the situations were reversed and he was your husband. Would you want her to do right by you? Let that thought drive you. He is real scum. You didn't deserve that, and the wife especially didn't deserve that. Yes, 100%. Although this probably goes without saying, be kind. This poor woman is going to be devastated. I'm so sorry this happened to you both. I would tell her, but only anonymously. I was in a situation where I found out a guy I dated was married, and I immediately ended it and sent all screenshots to his wife. But she ended up blaming me and then stalked me for a year. The whole thing stopped when she banged on my door at 3 a.m. thinking that he was with me, as he kept on cheating on her. So I think she moved on to keeping tabs on the new girl that he was dating. Seconding this, tell her and give her enough details so she knows it's not just gossip, but stay anonymous. Not everyone will be grateful. OP asks, any ideas for staying anonymous? I only know how to reach her through Facebook or LinkedIn. I could maybe do a fake Facebook profile with a fake email? A lot of these ideas are so in-depth. Don't lie to her or get a burner phone or send a letter. All you need to do is look into privacy settings on Facebook and make sure your info isn't accessible for people you aren't friends with. I'm sure there are settings that you can set up where you can contact her without being able to see any other info than your first name. And don't lie to her about being someone else. She's not going to believe anything you say if she finds out that you lied about anything you tell her. Tell her the truth and 100% include that you did not know that he was involved with anyone else at all. Good luck, and so sorry you're going through this weird situation. And now, on to the update. After protecting myself and my identity in what ways I could, I told the wife. I found her number and texted her a brief, factual message that her husband cheated on her, the date we matched on Bumble, how I had no idea he was engaged or married, the fake last name and how he never mentioned her, but did mention other people in his life. I gave her a few screenshots to demonstrate that it went on over a series of months. She replied the next day, thanking me. She said she was on her way to her parents' house and was planning on filing for a divorce as soon as possible. She had been suspicious after testing positive for HPV about a month ago. As I and you guys suspected from the house being only in her name, apparently he is completely financially dependent on her, and everything he told me about having investments and small businesses is a lie. I also found out that, in addition to a fake last name, he gave me a fake phone number too. She cautioned that he may try to retaliate once she gives him the news, and she will message me before she gives him the papers so that I can go to a friend's house for a few days if I feel the need. It's been a stressful and emotional past few days. I'm upset that men like this exist, proud of myself for telling her, thankful to my friends and to all of you who encouraged me to tell her, proud of her for leaving him, a little bit scared of what he will do. In the comments, I'm glad she's giving you the updates along the way so you can protect yourself. Sorry you have to go through this, and happy that you're on the other side now. Sweet baby Jeebus, I'm so overjoyed to see two women taking care of each other instead of one placing blame on another who tried to do the right thing. You two are a wonderful example. Love this. I found two overseas best friends this way. Found out my boyfriend had cheated on me with a plethora of girls. A few overseas who obviously didn't know him day to day. I legit created a group chat and added like 12 to 15 girls and explained I had an engagement ring on and we'd been together for just over a year after one of them messaged me genuinely terrified that I would be fuming with her. I'd left him, but didn't want them getting hurt. Not one of us was pissed at the other. A few just moved on, but I ended up with two American besties who even helped me cultivate the last few messages I sent him with facts from them to prove his cheating. Not one of them knew about me. I can't be pissed at them for that. It's always a huge risk telling the partner who has been cheated on the truth, since you never know how they'll take it. But damn if she isn't a class act. I hope she'll be okay and that you will too. So true. I once told a woman that her partner was cheating on her as he had flirted with me and made out with me at a bar, and when I looked up his name on social media, I saw he was living with a woman. I told her, and she called me a liar, jealous, a tramp, and accused me of trying to break them up and then blocked me. I'm glad the woman in OP's post was understanding and left the guy. Our next post is titled, "My parents ghosted me 5 years ago after my wedding and now reached out. What do I do? My husband, 30 male, used to be my boss. About 9 years ago, I started working as his assistant. We spent about 2.5 years ignoring our mutual attraction until we gave in. We then went to HR, who reassigned me, and the whole thing was strictly above board from the time we began dating. I got pregnant about a year later, and my husband and I decided to just get married. While we'd only really been dating for 1.5 years, we knew each other completely, loved each other, lived together, and there was a baby on the way. We knew how it would look, but I had to leave the company anyway due to problems with my new boss, so we didn't anticipate this causing any issues, except with my parents. They, 62 male, 57 female, have always been overprotective, so I knew they wouldn't like me dating my boss, and I hadn't told them, but I had to tell them if I wanted them at my wedding. We decided to be mostly honest with them about how it was strictly professional until it wasn't, how the second it got unprofessional we went to HR, how he had never taken advantage of me, but now we wanted to get married and we wanted them there. We did not mention the baby because I felt that giving them that information in addition to the rest all at once would just break them. I was only about 4 months along when the wedding happened, so the bump was easily hidden by a flowy dress. The wedding itself went off without a hitch, and apart from my mother pulling me into the bathroom shortly before the ceremony to ask if I was sure about this, which I said I was, my parents seemed to take it well. The ceremony and reception were at 2 different venues, and we had to travel from one to the other, and my parents never arrived at the reception. I called them and got ignored, and then my brother called them and they told him that they were going home. I don't remember the exact reason they gave, but it amounted to them being tired and uncomfortable. I tried contacting them after the wedding, but found that I was blocked on everything except email, which I used to send them a long letter, essentially saying that I'm an adult who made an adult choice, and I hope they can respect that. 5 years later, I have not heard from my parents since my wedding. My husband and I are not big on social media in general, but I recently posted something for our 5th anniversary in which I mentioned our 2 kids and 3rd on the way. Within a month of making this post, my parents left a voicemail saying they saw the post, and, having had no idea that they had grandchildren previously, now want to meet them. I haven't responded, and there have been a few follow-ups since then asking why I haven't. I don't know what to do, but my gut instinct is that 5 years is too long, and it's about the kids, not about them respecting my choices or relationship. However, I can't help but feel that I'm being unfair, and my brother agrees, because I told them in my email that if they could learn to respect my choice and my marriage eventually, then we could talk. And now I'm retroactively applying a time limit. Edit. Can't find a way to work this in organically, but my husband is not white. I am, as are my parents. I don't think this is a race thing or that my parents are racist, and neither does my husband. And we don't understand why they would want to meet our mixed-race children if they were racist. But this element is still gnawing at me. Should I reach out to them? If I did, how would we go about rebuilding the relationship? In the comments, how could you ever trust them not to just abandon your kids if they did something unauthorized? They've shown that they aren't willing to be loving. You can't trust people who don't know how to love. It's not even that they're not loving, but that their love is warped and conditional. It's based on whether OP's actions aligned with their worldview, something I'm sure OP was aware of as she lived with them for a number of years. OP knew on some level that her parents wouldn't be happy or approve of her relationship. There was a lot of pretense built around that. It's like a rug that can be pulled out from under you if they don't agree with what you are doing. That's not real love, that's control. You buried the lead in your comments here. The piece of the missing puzzle is being named for your older sister who died before you were born. It sounds like you were a replacement child and they dumped you because you were no longer doing what they wanted. especially with the added info of them talking a lot about your wedding day. They imagined your life a lot. It's honestly nothing to do with your husband being your boss, in my opinion, and just to do with the fact that it's not what they imagined for you. The fact that they wanted to show up now they realized there is another little girl, apparently with the same name, is a bit of a red flag. You were put into an impossible situation, born to replace a person that only existed for a brief period. She always did as she was told. She always loved your parents first, etc., etc. What kind of parent ignores, no, literally ghosts their daughter out of the blue, only to return once you've had grandkids? Would they still have reached out to you if they didn't know about your children? I hate to say this, but there are so many red flags through this thing. I'm quite concerned for the safety of your children as well, honestly. If you, your kids, and your husband have been living happily these past few years, please reconsider doing this. It's quite absurd these people would abandon you. You, not just a distant relative, but a family, a daughter? So quickly, especially over such a trivial matter. So put the safety, happiness, and sanity of yourself, your husband, and your kids first. No need to open a wound already stitched shut. You'll just be poisoning yourself. I know they are your parents, but I just can't see anything good out of their behavior, or anything that may come out of this. Edit. Even if you feel regret, and you think they do too, please keep your kids far away from them. If they want to reconnect, it'll only have to be because they want to talk to you, not your impressionable children. No need to tell your kids about this also. I genuinely have a terrible feeling about this in particular. OP says, I feel the same. They talked non-stop about my wedding day when I was a kid, so the fact they just ghosted me on the day was so jarring. It didn't even feel real when it happened. And then when I went to call them to tell them I was pregnant, something else they had always eagerly anticipated, I was blocked on everything. Just because my husband used to be my boss. I don't think that they would hurt my husband or kids, but I'm concerned about them. I had an older sister who passed away when she was very young. I never met her, but I was named after her, and that caused all the issues you would expect growing up. So if there ever was a question of them meeting my kids, particularly my daughter, who is also named after my sister, I would need to know that they were safe to be around her. Why have they got such a hang-up about him being your boss? It's not like he was 10 to 20 years older, he's literally a year older and your peer. Very odd. OP says, they think he might have taken advantage of me due to the boss-secretary relationship we had, which makes no sense to me, as if his only goal was to coerce me into sex, he wouldn't have married me. But they maintained for 5 years now that this is their only issue with my marriage. Do you think they'll regret not reaching out? I would think it's 100% up to them to rebuild their relationship with you and decide if it's enough. I don't know if you would trust them with your children. They walked away from their daughter so easily, I can see them doing that to the kids as well if things don't go their way, and they're likely to be hurt. OP replies, I think there is potential for regret with both options. If I don't reach out to them, I'll always wonder what could have been. But if I do reach out, then they could be amazing, say and do all the right things, and my life will be better for it. But they could also be terrible to my family and an all-round harmful presence in our lives. And like you said, they could walk away from the kids. And if the kids grow to love them before they walk away, it'll break their hearts to see them go. You can try to reconcile with them without involving your kids. If they can have a respectful relationship with you and the husband for a long period of time, a year at least, maybe they can meet their grandkids. How they respond to a reasonable boundary like that will show you whether they are willing to accept that they acted badly and earn back your trust. And now, on to the update. So I asked to talk yesterday. We were on Zoom within an hour. It was my parents and me and my husband. They asked to see the kids, and I said they could see them eventually, dependent on them earning our trust and convincing us they were going to be positive additions to the kids' lives. They asked to start by reading me a letter that they claimed to have written on my wedding day. It said that they were uncomfortable with me marrying my former boss, as they thought that he took advantage of me, so they left between the wedding and the reception to avoid a scene, but they wanted me to know that they were here for me despite their issues with him. They added that they would have sent this to me the morning after my wedding, but then I sent my email about them needing to respect my choices, and they were so ashamed they couldn't bring themselves to send theirs. Seeing my anniversary post made me realize how much they've missed in 5 years, and they really don't want to miss any more. I had some questions, like what the big deal was with me marrying my former boss, and they said that it just wasn't what they had in mind for my wedding day and my future spouse. I asked why they even came to the wedding at all if they didn't support the marriage, and my dad responded that he wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle as it was the only chance that he would get. The way it was phrased implied that they had intentionally only come to the wedding so he could give me away, and always planned to leave halfway, and because he said "my daughter" and didn't talk to me directly, it was pretty clear that he was thinking about my older sister who passed away. My husband caught that too, and said that if they were talking about me, they should address me directly. Then added that if they planned to leave, they should have told us, as we wouldn't have invited them. And the fact they waited 5 years to reach out was going to take more reasons than shame, as a father, he didn't understand how they could ignore their daughter for years, or only get back in touch when we had kids. My dad snapped that he wasn't going to take this from a cushy, a slur meaning dark-skinned. My mother immediately tried to run damage control, but I ended the call. They have since messaged me several times, trying to explain that calling my husband a racial slur wasn't indicative of a racist attitude, and he wouldn't have said that in front of the kids, so they should still get to meet them. I've spent 5 years wondering how they were so offended by me marrying my boss that it earned no contact for half a decade. Turns out, they're just racist. It's almost nice to find out. If it wasn't just the boss thing, I would have sympathy for them, and we might even be able to reconcile. But with this, it's now just a question of if I'm going to knowingly expose my mixed-race children to a couple of racists, which I am obviously not going to do. Now in the comments, if your parents said they wouldn't say that slur in front of your kids, then they know it is wrong and shouldn't have said it at all. You've done the right thing. Calling someone using a racial slur out of sudden anger most definitely means they have racist attitude. Sometimes we need to cut people out from our lives to protect who we are. This time you were doing that and protecting your family. They have shown who they are, and cutting them out can mean cutting out that toxicity. Yes, forgiveness is something that we should all strive for, but sometimes we just don't need that negativity around us. Wish you the best. OP says, they're insisting they aren't racist, but even in our worst fights, my husband and I have never called each other slurs, and the only people who have ever called my husband slurs have been racist. What my husband was saying wasn't wrong either, or unfair. Half of it was things that I told him that I wanted to say to them, but I'd gotten too emotional to actually say it. I think I'm quite a forgiving person, but there is no forgiveness to be had here. On a call when he needed to be on his best behavior, and your father couldn't hold back the racial slur? Wow. It's a shame for everyone involved that their attitude will negatively affect so many people, but it sounds like you really made the absolute best choice. It just had to be it. Nothing else made any sense. I was expecting him to be 50 and married when I read the title of the original post. I've never in my life heard of a parent being this freaked out that their kid basically met their partner at work. Mom, Dad, don't freak out, but this person that's the same age as me is more successful than me. Hope that's okay. Is not a thing. Had to be a race or a cultural issue. OP says, I thought that it would be the boss thing because if I, 20 years from now, found out that my daughter was pregnant with her boss's child, I would not be happy. But he wasn't my boss at the time. We were getting married, and I could never not talk to my daughter for 5 years. At least they've admitted, accidentally or not, that it was a race thing, so I know not to waste my time with them. Just in case I'm not the only one, the word cushy or cushy, C or K usage, is generally used in the Hebrew Bible to refer to a dark-skinned person of African descent. It's really odd when racism clashes with controlling grandparents' urges, but there you go. Honestly, don't know what they thought would happen here. I'm glad OP didn't subject her kids to those people. I am 99.9% positive that they tell people that they can't be racist because they have mixed grandchildren. forgetting to say that they never met. This is it. As a biracial kid, my white family often uses my family as can't be racist because my ... despite the grandparents having called my father slurs. I'll do one better. I'm multiracial. My grandma made me hide in the back when other white people came over. I wasn't allowed to sit on certain furniture or touch certain things that my white cousin could touch or sit on. The white side regularly called me a mongrel and even said in my grandma's will that the mongrel grandchildren only get X dollars. My sister had never been called that to her face, so she was shocked. She can pass, but I'm obviously black. I can go on for days or years longer. That's just off the top of my head. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.